all know that German companies have been very successful in China. We just heard it. They're struggling at the moment. Chinese brands are coming now here to Europe, and it's a very competitive market. It's a very conservative market, Jochen. So what is the strategy to penetrate into the market? What is the first steps, and how is your success rate at the moment?
Well, first of all, we are definitely looking at Europe at a European scale. We're not looking into Germany as a single market, and we try to adapt our strategy with that focus. So our strategy at Chery is that first of all, we want to ensure that for the big markets like Germany, we set up our own sales organization and our own national sales organization with direct partnerships with local dealer groups. And then for the smaller markets, we know that from a complexity point of view, it would not be worth for us setting up national sales organizations in all these countries. So in those markets, we work with importers to take over the complete business for the country.
With XPeng, it's a little bit different. You're also in a different segment of the market, sorry. You're more in the high price segment or premium high price segment. So is there a different, do you see a different to your colleague, how to set up your success?
It's actually very similar, to be honest. We try to not have a pan-European approach for every country. Like in Germany, we work with the classic dealer model, while in China, people buy cars online and in the shopping malls, as Klaus just mentioned. But this is not going to work here. And in some smaller countries, we do work with direct sales model and so on. In terms of product strategy, in China, we have a quite big product portfolio, from low-priced product to quite high-priced segment as well. Here for Europe, we need to pick. We need to do some cherry picking. Basically, what are the most suitable products for Europe? Do we start with a top-down approach, or do we want to have a bottom-up approach? Start with a cheaper product and then try to upsell, or the other way around. So we do adapt our strategy to the European conditions.
And what is the impression so far? Is it more the lower cost car?
We picked the top-down approach because, in our opinion, to be successful in Europe, it's going to take a few more years than in China. So I think the first years, the focus is not really to make a lot of volumes, but to set the right foundation to convince the customers that we are capable of delivering high quality products. That's why we decided to launch or to start with, let's say, high-end products, to build the trust for the dealers, but also for the customers, and then going down in the prices, to offer smaller but technology also quite advanced cars. Yeah, that's the strategy behind it.
Franz, your company is importing Chinese cars to Germany since a couple of years. You imported microcars also, the very, very small one, but also mid-size SUVs. So what is your impression so far?
Well, first of all, our business model is totally different, because what we do is we have a small R&D department, and we develop our own products kind of on the paper or requirements documents, where we say, this is what European customers want to see in a car, wants to experience in a car, and we bring this back then to China and find their production, who will then produce the cars for us. We ship them then over and put our badge on it. So basically, we are kind of OEM, but not with a production. So this is what we do. And our success is basically really filling this kind of gap, because we see that Chinese production quality, capacity, whatever, it's great. Basically, if you look at Apple is designed somewhere in the US, in California, but produced in China for long years already. So this is basically our approach too. We take the best of both worlds, so kind of German engineering and Chinese production capabilities.
And how you have microcars, you have mid-size SUVs.
Yes.
So what is the German market looking for at the moment?
Sorry.
What is the German market or the German customer looking for? Is it more looking for a cheap solution when it comes from China, or is it like the mid-size SUV?
Well, we try now to also attack the lower segments, the smaller segments, because we see there's lots of space and room in this segment for small EV cars, which other OEMs obviously doesn't provide, especially also in the price brackets, because for Elaris it is important to provide affordable mobility, affordable EVs to our customers in Europe here. So this is basically our step into the market. Is for sure we have an SUV, a D-segment SUV in the market, but we also know this is a shark tank, right? There's lots of others there in the market too, competing with you for market share, and we see basically also in smaller segments there's lots of room, and this is where we also will head to. For sure, we have to have the full range, because otherwise dealers won't buy into our business if you just offer one. So one-trick pony doesn't make a show.
Morten, Nic Christiansen company is importing cars from Asia since 1992? 69 already.
Yeah.
I know that since 92 you're importing Hyundais.
Yes, that's
and you started with BYD in 2007 or something around like that. So you have a lot of experience with importing cars from China.
Yeah.
What is your impression at the moment, the Chinese brands coming to the European market, and how does the customer is reacting to it?
Yeah. So first of all, I think I have to state that I have tremendous respect for the Chinese auto industry. The huge changes they have made over the last 10 years or so. From I started to exporting cars, Chinese cars to Africa back in the zeros, and to where they are now, it's just an incredible journey. So everything I say should be based on that. I have very much respect for it. But I also think it's fair to say that when the Chinese have come to Europe, they have been very focused on the distribution model and the product, not so much about how to convince the customer to actually buy their products. So I think they have underestimated a little bit how, perhaps not brand loyal, but how much brand value we see in the already established OEMs here. So I think that part they still have to get right. In the smaller countries, as Klaus mentioned, we as a private importer can lend our reputation, our network, our people to help build that trust and help convince, I think, the customers, even though the brand message is not so clear for very, very few, at least, of the OEMs right now.
So dealerships are very important to establish a brand feeling or a support for the brand. Jochen, you have to build up your own dealership network in Europe. How do you do that, and how do you convince dealers that selling Chery cars is a good idea?
Well, I can use Spain as an example. We launched, so Spain was our pilot market where we started in February this year. And it was basically not a lot of effort necessary from our side to convince dealer groups. We had a lot of dealer groups, and I think we see a similar situation in Germany, where, first of all, and we talked earlier about this already, about dealership consolidation, and a lot of the big OEMs and established OEMs are reducing the number of outlets. So there are a lot of dealers and dealer groups who see that even maintaining today's business needs a new approach and might need an additional player. In Spain, it was extreme in a way that Spain is even more a more price-sensitive market than Germany, and that's exactly what we are offering. We're offering very good value for money, and it's different than some of our Chinese competitors. We're offering the whole sweep of powertrain portfolio. So we're not an EV brand. We are bringing ICE, HEV, PHEV, and BEV into the European market, and that's what the Spanish customer was looking for, and therefore the Spanish dealerships were looking for. So we see there's a strong need, and for Germany specifically now, I see two groups of dealerships or dealer groups we're talking to. One set is multi-brand dealer already, and they have to strategically think, okay, I'm an international multi-brand dealer already. I'm pretty sure Chinese OEMs will come. So, okay, which is the OEM that I want to bet on to add to my portfolio? But there's no question to add a Chinese brand to the portfolio. And then there's another set of dealer groups who are especially working with the premium OEMs and seeing that okay, the premium OEMs, a lot of them are going much more towards luxury and high profit margins, and therefore volume is dropping down. So in order to maintain sales volume, to ensure you have enough coverage for your service, etc., you need to bring volume into the market, and that's where we are a very attractive partner.
Is it a little bit different for you, Kai? Because like the premium market looks a little bit different. So also the dealership situation is a little bit different. We heard that, you know, Chinese customers are happy or okay with buying a car in a shopping center.
Yep.
Obviously in Germany that is not happening, at least for the moment. So how do you convince dealers to work with XPeng, and how do you build up your network of dealers?
Yeah, I think we understood from the very beginning that it's going to be very difficult for us to convince customers to buy our cars. It's much easier to have long-established dealerships to do the job for us. So they are basically the entry ticket for us, to the market. That's why we also decided for the classic dealership model, at least in Germany. Right? We started to talk to different dealer groups, like you just mentioned. A lot of dealer groups are consolidating. A lot of shops or a lot of spaces are becoming free or available, basically. Those are the ones we targeted at. So they have existing infrastructure. They don't have to make a huge investment for a new brand. That's the first thing. Second thing, we focused on let's say regional focused dealer groups. So there are a lot of, there are big groups as well in Germany, but as we all know, in Germany the number of dealer groups are huge compared to Nordics. So we have a lot of good regional, smaller or let's say regional champions as dealer groups who've been there since generations. All the customers there on the countryside or in the cities, they know them, they buy the cars from them, they don't trust the brands, but they trust the dealer brands. Yeah, so those are the ones we really target at. And we also believe it's not going to work if we are just the brand number 7, 8 or 10 in the portfolio. There must be kind of a commitment, a management commitment as well. The dealer needs to take us as one of the, let's say, top 5 brand probably in their portfolio. They are willing to grow with us and not just try us out and see if it's going to work. So for us, it was quite important to have regional focused dealer groups. Yeah.
That brings me to Morten, because as you said, like it's hard if you go into a multi-brand dealership. There is also like a limited space, and of course, no dealer wants to have space occupied by cars that maybe don't sell that well. So how did you solve this problem? How did you went through this process?
Yeah, I think the issue is a little broader than that, in the sense that we are looking into a value chain that is really shrinking, and margins are shrinking in the entire industry. So from our point of view as both importers and retailers, we see those two functions actually merging together in the future, because we don't believe there's room for a dedicated importer and a dedicated retailer. A lot of synergies between the two functions could be harvested, and then you can better compete in that arena. So for some of the brands, we actually take control of the full value chain, so both the import functions, the retailing and the after sales. And of course, it's a combination, as you're saying. There's a certain number of square meters available, but we believe very much that if we are to introduce the Chinese brands, then we have to make a big branding exercise out of it. So we try not to go to the multi-franchise role, but are actually building, dedicated showrooms for the brands we represent.
How do you deal with that, with the dealerships? Because like you are, as you explained, you are producing in China and then importing here as a brand. Did you build up your own dealer network, or did you work with existing dealers? How did you solve this problem for you?
No, a company at our size, we need to be very efficient. That means we don't have the gift of having a mother company backed up with millions of units already sold in other markets. So we are a startup kind of still in this phase, and we are now scaling. For sure, we want to have the the most motivated dealer network. And at the moment, we are also now going to next step with the new strategy, scaling up our dealer network. But we are happy if dealers are happy to sell our products, buy into our idea of providing affordable e-mobility to the customers. And that's basically our approach to market.
And when a customer buys a car from you and has a problem with it, how do you deal with that?
We have a network, a very tiny one, but we have a network, and we'll cover the issues for sure. For us, it's because we have less customers than maybe all the others sitting here. We can be more kind of bespoke approach to cater for their needs.
One question when it comes to Chinese cars, and I'm old enough to remember it was the same in the 80s, early 80s, begin or mid 80s, when Japanese brands came to the German market, is quality. Quality production, lifetime quality of a car. German consumers are very conservative and very loyal to their brand often. How do you convince customers in Germany that they get the same brand, not the same brand, but the same guarantees for their cars, that it's not breaking, that the quality or that quality is not an issue for them?
I think, to be honest, it's mainly a communication topic. I mean, if you look just at our numbers in China, just the latest numbers came out from JD Power. We're one of the absolute top OEMs in China, and that includes the international companies. What we're doing, I can give you a good example. When we launched in the Philippines, we offered the cars with 1 million kilometers warranty on the powertrain. So we are very convinced about the quality of our products. What we're doing in Europe is we're offering 7 years warranty, which is amongst the top leaders offerings in Europe. And that's also what we think is absolutely essential, because we know, and we talk a lot about it a lot during the day, is that, okay, we're talking about one of the biggest purchase decisions of people in their lifetime. And therefore it's associated with a big potential risk. So we need to reduce that perception of risk. And how we do this is, as I said, we give long warranty periods. We work with strong partners in the financial world to ensure that we can offer good leasing or other financial services, and therefore create a package that brings this potential step over to an absolute minimum.
Franz, and that's also interested me, like from you're producing in China, but you're developing in Germany, as you said. How do you convince your customer that the quality they get, battery, for example, that this is at the same standard as in Germany, as from a German manufacturer?
I think these are exactly the mechanism which works. It's communication, basically, and also it's standing in for your product. That means we have also our warranty, and especially you take the peace of mind of the people's who are risk averse if you offer them a leasing product, which they don't have to have the burden for the product. They just have the burden, the monthly rates for the usage of it. So they don't take it as long as, 8 to 10 years owning it, and then maybe all of a sudden in year 9 something breaks. So we also have long warranty times that we say, yes, we believe in our product and we guarantee you it will last. First and second, we offer then leasing and other risk-averse strategies.
For XPeng, I think it's even a little bit more complicated, because you mentioned that you have the top-down approach, so you're selling more high-priced cars, and then people start to think, can this company give me the same quality that I get in an Audi or in a BMW or something like that? I mean, I know Chinese cars, I've driven a lot of them, also in XPeng I was lucky enough, and I know that the quality is there. But how do you convince people? Is it only communication, or is it PR marketing, as Jochen says, or is it also making more people aware that the quality of Chinese brands is not too far away, or in par, or even better than the German cars?
I think it's for us it's much more than just communication. So first of all, the company is 10 years old. We have about 9 to 10 models right now in the portfolio. Starting from the third product, it was already clear that all the products needs to be developed towards a European standard. So we already designed the car to meet NCAP 5-star for the safety, for example. We already paid attention when it comes to the choice of materials to meet environmental requirements by Europe, for example. And then the cooperation between VW Group and us also showed that we are not only advanced in the technology, but also in terms of quality, what we offer. And then on top of that, of course, we do offer 7 years warranty as well in Europe, just to make sure that the customer have peace in mind. And then that's the reason why we chose a local dealer model as well, because they basically speak for us. Yeah, and also we try to participate in as many as tests or competitions as possible. Like we just won the ADAC 18 hours E competition when it comes to range, for example. Also in Norway, they have this NAF test for range and charging speed, and XPeng was always at place 1, no matter if it was range or charging speed. And with all this, our idea is speak for ourselves. It's not really convincing. Let the others speak. Let the press talk about it. Let the dealers talk about it. Let the customer talks about it. And I think right now the key for us really is to get as many people as possible to test drive the cars, because on the paper it's nice, but you really have to get the people to test drive the cars, and then they will be convinced.
Morten, I'm interested because as someone who owns, or your company owns a lot of dealerships that sells or import cars from China and from other areas, how is the feedback from the customer if they decide to buy a car from Asia or from China?
Yeah, but I think it's also in relation to what was just said. I think it's important to say that in this day and age, you cannot sell a car that is not, completely equal to everybody else in terms of technology and design. You will sell 0 cars. So that's just the entry ticket in our opinion. And I think the customers have received the Chinese cars. They've seen they are very, very technologically advanced. They are with high warranty. So I don't think they're concerned about that aspect. But in our markets, in the Scandinavian markets, it's just the fact that even though the product, if you compare apple to apple, perhaps is better, then they still expect a lower price for a Chinese car than for a European car. And then we're back to the brand value, to the communication, to the PR, to the marketing, and to this also, you could say, long-term commitment to entering Europe. And I think one of the risks from a dealer point of view, 2 things. We have seen some Chinese brand enter markets and leaving markets. That is not good for the whole Chinese family of OEMs. And then there's also the elephant in the room in terms of the geopolitics. When you, as a private dealer, invest in a Chinese brand, you have to be a little concerned about how the geopolitics develop. So you have to go into these ventures with very open eyes, in my opinion.
This is one aspect, of course, the geopolitics, but it's hard to predict what's happening, as we say, US, etc. The other thing is the quality and the technology that Chinese cars are offering at the moment. And from the view of XPeng, I mean, you have one of the most advanced cars on the road. You just spoke about it, the range, etc., etc. But also software is a huge part of it, not only the battery. Do you get good feedback from your dealers that have mixed brands like BMW and so on? So how is the feedback, the honest feedback to your?
Yeah.
Not everybody. Is there also like criticism, or is there people saying it's a good car, but it's too expensive compared to the German brands? Because as we said, like as Morten said, like people come and expect that it's maybe 5,000 or 10,000 euros cheaper.
Yeah. So the feedback right now, I mean, We've been selling now in the Nordic countries for 1.5 years. I think the feedback there is very, very positive. I mean, in a small market like Denmark, we managed to sell over 1,100 cars in the past 3 months. So the result is great, and also the customer feedback is very, very positive. Now coming to Germany, we've done all the analysis from DAT and so on, product comparison. So how much cheaper are you really spec adjusted? So when it comes to that, I think one of our product, when you compare to the German models, we're about 60% below spec adjusted. So that's a huge gap, of course. And also our dealers give us the feedback that our cars do offer a much higher value for money indeed compared to the let's say local manufacturers. But as we all know, at the end of the day, it's at least in Germany, it's not the MSRP or it's not the price matters, it's the leasing rates, of course. And then as a newcomer, we don't have a house bank, right? We don't have a BMW financing or VW financing. That makes our cost, of course, a bit higher to offer a similar level of leasing factor, for example. And this is the challenging part. But when it really comes to value for money, I think the gap which we think it's necessary, it's there.
Jochen, in the AB market, it's a little bit harder because profit margins are smaller. So how does Chery compare themselves to the German brands? I mean, there are not a lot of small cars from German brands on the market at the moment anyway. So your competition is more from Stellantis and Renault, or is it still the Germans?
Well, it really depends. We have a multi-brand strategy. It's not. It's just too easy to come with one brand. That's why we decide to come with 3 of them. No, seriously, what we're trying to do is, first of all, Chery is a volume brand company. So what we're doing is we're coming with 2 volume brands, which are Allmoda and Jacu. Allmoda, the crossover brand, while Jacu being more traditional, more elegant SUV brand. And then on top of that, we will have Xlantix as a premium brand. But what we are doing a lot is looking into what the Koreans have done over the last 20 years. I think it's a very good example of what went well, what went wrong. They definitely also made mistakes, but if you look at their positioning today, it's definitely a success story. And so we're looking very closely into that. We try to be much faster, obviously, but this is where we look at from a pricing strategy point of view a lot.
Franz, you don't have the benefit of a large company, as you said, behind you. Importing cars from China here is an expensive business. Also, the manufacturing process, of course. How do you think the investment is going to pay back for you, and how long do you think it's going to take?
The beauty of it is that we have far less investments to take because we don't have to build a plant, and in some circumstances we also don't have to take the risk of the plant not being fully utilized. So this is the risk we are pushing to the manufacturer at this end. So for us, it is on the investment side, it is fairly overseeable. Can you say that? So the only challenge for us is then to build our brand slowly but surely, step by step. And this is nothing which happens overnight. We all know Tesla also is not. Tesla is not the Model S success story. It's the Roadster far down the road. Also, if you take a Hyundai, I guess if we call it right, 1970s, they entered the European or German market. Qian also. So this is a marathon, and we are prepared to go the marathon in this point and grow step by step.
Kai, this is, as he said, it's a marathon. So it's like in VC market, you say it's an investment phase. That's going to take a couple of years, maybe even a decade. Are Chinese brands ready to pay that price, not making any profits here in Germany, to establish their stance on the market?
This is a very good question. I think one of the big challenge for all of us sitting here is really to convince the local management how things work in Europe. For us, we have the home market, which is basically the backbone to deliver the, let's say, the resources and the money we need to invest in Europe. But we already see actually quite good numbers after 2 years, at least in the Nordic countries. So we are already making money there indeed. Germany is going to take a bit longer due to the size of the country and the brand loyalty of the customers. But in our eyes, it won't take that long as it used to be for the Korean and Japanese brand. So I won't call it a marathon. I think in 5 to 10 years' time, if we follow the strategy right, if we do the implementation right, we will be already on the green side. And as for big companies like Chery, they have a great cost structure, I believe. So I don't think it's going to take that many years to be on the to write red numbers to be established in the market.
No pressure, Jochen. No pressure.
No.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
We're doing good. Spain is profitable.
Spain is profitable, is it? Yeah, but the thing is, like, the question is always, like Morten said, if you have like a larger or a bigger name that withdraws from a market, that's not good news for all the other brands that's coming from China, because then customer may say, I'm reluctant to buy one car of this brand because maybe it's not existing anymore. What am I going to do when I have a problem with it? We saw that, Gesundheit. And I did a little bit of research also beforehand. And I looked at the European market, also of course looked at the German market, because this is the hardest nut that you have to crack. And I think the best-selling brand in Germany at the moment is MG, by far. Like, they're coming close to Tesla even, because surprisingly. And then there is a lot of good Chinese brands, several hundreds or several thousand cars per year. So at the moment we're talking about low numbers, especially in Germany. When do you think this is going to turn? Is it price, as everyone said?
Well, again, I can use Spain as an example. So we launched in February. By August, we have passed 1% market share. 6 months later, we have surpassed 1% market share with one vehicle model, with one engine derivative, with 2 variants. So looking at that, you're absolutely right. We don't expect the same performance in Germany to happen. Also in France, I don't know whether Germany is the hardest to crack. But yes, you're absolutely right. What we are doing, and it was mentioned, I think there are right now much more Chinese players than the number of players that will stay. And we need to make sure from day one that we are part of that group which will stay. And if you look at our activities so far, so 6 years ago we started establishing our R&D center in Germany. We meanwhile have around 70 people in Germany doing nothing else than making sure that the cars that we bring to Europe are not only meeting the legislation, but are meeting customer expectations. So we are adapting the cars for the European market, and we spend a lot of time and efforts doing so, doing millions of kilometers of test driving in Europe, etc. In April this year, we formed the joint venture with Ebro in Spain and purchased the former Nissan plant in Barcelona. So we now have the first Chinese OEM with a local production in Europe, and we will add more production facilities to that. This also gives us the strength to overcome those potential political situations that we might face. But it follows a very stringent strategy that we have shown in the 90 export markets that we are in already. That, okay, if you want to be present in a market, it's not enough to export cars into that market. You need to be on site, you need to understand the customers, you need to produce locally, and that's what we are doing.
We are at the dealership conference, Morten. What would you tell dealers who are interested in to sell Chinese brands in the future? What brand should he look and what steps he should do? Because the potential of having a bestseller in their lineup, like people, coming in and just, I want to have this car exactly, is likely. So what are your ideas, or what are your tips for people who may be interested in getting a Chinese brand in their dealership?
No, exactly, because I think, as you mentioned, we look back at the Japanese coming into Europe, the Koreans coming into Europe. So the big attraction for all of us is if we can identify the right partner for the long haul that would take their place in 5-10 years. So I think you need to do a lot of due diligence. You need to also identify which of the OEMs match your own sort of organization. Is it one? Klaus had the 4 categories before, in terms of the classical OEMs, the newcomers, the marketing brands, and so on. So you need to find that match. But from our perspective, we have been very cautious about talking to partners that we believe are there for the long term. We are a family-owned business, have our own reputation to take care of. So we want to have very serious partners that invest in Europe and we can sort of mirror us into. Then if you're looking at brands that are already here and want to partner up, I think that's an important thing you need to think about very carefully. A lot of products in our markets, meaning Scandinavia, Northern Germany, are sold on private lease, as we said before. But these private lease prices we see now is, in my opinion, artificial low. And it's because the customer has not accepted the sticker price of the car. So a lot of support goes into getting a low leasing price. But we as retailers know that when a customer has not accepted the sticker price, then when it comes back from the lease, then they will not accept the used car price. So you're just deferring the problem in a way with these lease prices. So as a partner, I would look very carefully about which of the brands have the customer actually accepted, are they ready to pay out of their own pocket for.
Franz, one last question. Getting yellow signs here.
I make it quick.
Running out of time. Yeah, but question with a quick answer, please. As a company that is not backed by a bank, not backed by another, would you also look into Chinese brands, like a name of a Chinese brand that maybe are partnering with or maybe helping you, for example, with dealerships, etc.?
No. We want to be independent. We want to be recognized in the market as a German engineering brand, which basically creates cars for the European market, produced in China. And how we try to convince our dealers, I would say, for sure, all you said, but on top of it, it is all about robust processes and reliability. So it's coming to after sales, especially after sales, warranty topics, and so on and so forth. So you have to do your homeworks. And this also takes time. It's nothing you can just bring to the market within 1 second.
1 second, 30 seconds for Kai. About where do you see your brand in 5 years?
In Europe?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our target in Germany, when we talk about segment share, we want to reach about 3% of BEV segment share in the segment where we offer product. Yeah, this is our minimum target.
And Jochen, last but not least, Chery as the new Volkswagen in Germany.
Okay. Well, if we talk about
the good version of it.
The good version, yeah.
If the XPeng version of Volkswagen.
Yeah, the old version of it, not the new.
If we talk about 5 years, really, then I think something like a 5% market share could be feasible.
In Europe?
Yes.
In the whole of Europe?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I hope you felt informed. We are here also for a couple of minutes if you have any questions about Chinese brands and the market penetration. I think we're happy to help you out and give you some answers. And I'm handing over the stage to your moderator
thanks,
for
Don.
the whole day.
Well done.
Thanks a lot.